All right, welcome everybody to today's webinar presented by GoDaddy Pro, entitled Bringing Brick-and-Mortar Stores Online with WooCommerce, Tips, Strategies, and Extensions you need to create an e-commerce website for your store or a client using WooCommerce. In the next hour or so, we're going to talk about exactly that, some tips, strategies, and extensions. We'll share some trends, some stats, and provide some information about a number of extensions that you'll find helpful. And I just want to go ahead and note here at the top that this is being recorded. So if you have to leave early or want to check it out again later, the replay that will be available online, usually within the next 24 hours or so, but within a couple of days. So yeah, that will be available for you. My name is Marcus Burnett. I am on the WooCommerce care team here at GoDaddy, supporting managed WooCommerce and WooCommerce plugins that our team develops. But you'll also find me often in other WooCommerce communities, both on Facebook and Slack. So feel free to get in touch with me there as well. And I'm formerly part of a small marketing agency here in the Central Florida where I live, Orlando, Florida area. So I've tons of experience with working with WordPress and WooCommerce for small and medium-sized businesses in our area, getting them online. So what we'll cover today, we're going to look at an overview of some trends and retail in retail e-commerce, about both the e-commerce landscape and retail as it pertains to just bouncing back after the pandemic to some degree. And then we'll look at some things to consider when going online, things that if you don't already have an e-commerce store for your retail store, for your brick and mortar store, what it looks like to get that set up, or maybe fill in the gaps if you've already gotten started and are looking to kind of figure out what else that might be useful for you. And in that, we'll look at some extensions and strategies about getting that done. And at the very end, we'll look at a little bit of your questions, answer some questions. I keep saying we because I am not here alone. Our expert today is Benjamin Green. Benj is on our support team as well, technical account manager at GoDaddy. Coming to you, it looks like he's already mentioned it in the chat there, from Detroit. But Benj, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so likewise, I work on the WooCommerce care team. So we basically help people get going with e-commerce websites with our managed WooCommerce hosting here at GoDaddy and some WooCommerce plugins. I spend my days answering questions, writing documentation to try and help make things more clear and really help even small e-commerce businesses be able to grow.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Benj. Keep going here. Let's look at some stats real quick before we get into some of these extensions about retail and e-commerce as it stands today. Last year, during the pandemic, e-commerce grew 44% in the US. I think it's probably easy to know why that's the case. Lots of retail establishments had to close down temporarily, and a lot of that got moved online. In Q1 of this year, however, it was still up 39% over last year. So it's still growing, and you know, the things reopening after the pandemic has not stopped e-commerce from continuing to grow. Sales were over 4 trillion last year worldwide, which is huge, and expected to grow to 5 trillion by next year and 6 trillion by 2024. As for retail itself, in-store, e-commerce is still growing, but foot traffic hasn't quite recovered yet. Those are still down 13 and 18% each month last year. So although after the pandemic, stores are starting to open back up, folks are starting to wander back out, but it's not quite picked back up to levels that it was pre-COVID. And online shopping is here to stay. There's 15 to 30% expected growth in online shopping. As stores have added e-commerce offerings and people have gotten used to ordering online, that's going to continue to grow alongside foot traffic returning some in the coming years. And then some good news for our agencies and developers out there, that about 28% of small businesses don't have a website, let alone an e-commerce store. So that's a fairly significant amount. There's still a lot of opportunity out there to build these, and 34% of small businesses hire outside help to build these websites. So great news there. About a third of all of them, and that translates to probably to the 28% as well that still don't have a store, are looking for outside help to build these. So a lot of the extensions and stuff that we'll talk about here will be huge in being able to take those retail stores and bring them online, especially if you're an agency or a developer looking for work to do that sort of thing. So now that we've looked at some stats, we're going to go ahead and jump into some strategies and extensions that you can use to build these sites. And I'm going to intro them and let Benj talk about them as well. And we will just go ahead and get started here. The first one on the list we have is payment gateways. One of the core pillars, one of the things that every site needs when coming online, is obviously a way to accept payments at the store. There are quite a number of different ways to accept credit cards, e-checks, and other forms of payment as well. Benj, what should people consider when trying to make a decision on which gateway to use?
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, you want to go with a gateway that offers your customers the payment options that they need. Then it also interfaces with the like merchant account that you need for your business. The first one there we see in this image, the point. If you're on GoDaddy hosting, you'll see that as GoDaddy Payments, and we've just launched it, and we're really excited about it, and hoping that it's a good offering for all of our merchants. And if I would say, in terms of choosing which one to go with, you want to make sure that you look for one that's going to provide you support when things go wrong. And hopefully they don't, but sometimes they do, and you want to make sure you have the support there, and that offers all available payment methods for your customers.
Yeah, I think especially our agencies and developers, are well aware that hopefully everything goes well, but when it doesn't, you definitely want to have someone there to get your back. A couple of notes that I just had on things to consider. Ease of use is definitely like at the top of the list. Cost, transaction fees and that kind of thing. And then just a range of purchasing options, right? When customers come to the site, you can have one of these, or you can have multiple different options at your site for ways to pay. Some people might be comfortable with just adding a credit card. Some people may be more comfortable with something like PayPal, where they don't have to enter credit card information. And that also helps with some international sales as well, where the payment gateway may be expecting a US credit card and it doesn't work otherwise, but something like PayPal might be able to span across different countries as well.
Absolutely.
Next one is WooCommerce AvidTax, and this allows you to collect taxes at checkout and also be able to submit them as well through Avalara. This is a plugin that connects to the Avalara service and does the calculation of taxes for you. Why would you choose to let a service handle tax collection rather than doing it manually yourself?
I mean, to me, doing it doing it manually myself wouldn't even be an option. If you look there, just at the number there, 6,500 tax rate changes in those 10 years from 2009 to 2019. It's probably hard for full-time professionals to keep up with that number of changes, full-time tax professionals, let alone with people who are trying to run an e-commerce store or set up e-commerce stores for clients. Certainly, if you are doing client work, then you're not going to be able to keep up with tax changes on all of the websites you're helping with, probably. So going with something like Avatax, making sure that someone is watching over that, all the tax updates for you to make sure you're in compliance is huge in terms of peace of mind and also just freeing up lots of time.
Yeah, for sure. And, taxes can get real tricky and real complicated, even down to within a city and stuff. So things change constantly, and the lines for where taxes are which taxes need to be charged in which location can vary very greatly. So having a service handle that is a big deal, is very convenient. I also just want to note here, just the first bullet that we have is just that you do need to take this into consideration, right? You know this as a business owner likely already, that taxes are important, but you're not exempt from having to deal with that online, and it just gets more complicated because not everyone that's purchasing things from your store lives, in the location where, they would come into a retail store to make a purchase. So it gets very complex very quickly once you get out of, your own region. But it is still important to make sure that you are collecting all of the required taxes, even through e-commerce sales online. And then the third kind of pillar, the third basic essential after payments and taxes, are shipping for taking your store online. So there are a number of different shipping method plugins, and they allow you to integrate with the shipping providers to get real-time rates and get shipping set up for your site. We're not exactly recommending a specific provider here, Benj, but what should folks keep in mind when choosing a shipping option?
Yeah, likewise. This is, again, just got to find the balance that works for you and works for your customers. I know one thing I really like about these shipping integrations is that they can show live rates on your site, so that when shipping charges show up in your cart and checkout pages, those are like the actual shipping costs, and it's not just costs that you've had to input to cover for it, to make sure that you collect enough. These are the actual rates from the providers. And I would say, you can see 86% of customers like the ability to choose shipping speeds and options. I know a lot of customers who like to choose between providers as well. Some customers will only want to ship with FedEx or only with UPS or not with others. And so being able to offer choice to your customers is beneficial as well.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of things I just noted quickly earlier were geography is a big deal, right? If you're selling in the United States, making sure that you have the appropriate options set up there, USPS, UPS, FedEx, that kind of thing. But if you're looking to sell internationally, or your store is located internationally, making sure that you are just picking the option that's within your area. Then the other things to keep in mind are a number of options, like you said, Benj, allowing customers the option to pay more to have it shipped faster, or pay less if they don't need it as quickly. Some of these allow you to offer multiple options within the carrier, and then cost. Obviously, this will allow you to get real-time shipping rates, so it can handle managing the cost for you, and you don't have to lose money on shipping and all that. So those are just some things I had noted. And kind of related, we're going to move on to shipment tracking, which allows you to add tracking information, tracking number to your order emails, and for folks to be able to see online at your site as well. Benj, why would that be useful?
I would say that it's not just useful. I would say this is pretty essential. If you're shopping in person, you know you're walking out of the store with that item in your hand. Whereas if you're shopping online, it can feel like you're at the whims of people you've never seen. And having the confidence that your packages will arrive to you is critical for increasing customer happiness and getting customers to come back to your store again. So yeah, I think that this would this should definitely be one of the highest priority items in making sure that you can offer it.
Yeah, when a customer pays for one of your products, obviously they want to know when they're going to have it. In the retail store, that's easy, right? They pay for it there at the register, they have it in hand, they walk out with it. But when they're ordering things online, they want to know when they're going to be able to have it in hand, and so having tracking number just makes that possible.
And it's helpful for you too as a store owner, because increasing customer satisfaction is the best way to get return customers. And also, as you see on the slide here, that order tracking emails have some of the highest open rates per email. So, depending on, you know, your laws in your local jurisdiction, you might be able to turn those order tracking emails into further opportunities for your business, whether with cross sells or something like that. And again, that'd be dependent on your local laws, but there is an opportunity there for your business as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. All right, and we're gonna shift gears a little bit, still sort of on the shipping lane, but we look at an extension called postcode address validation. And this allows you to simplify your checkout process by having customers look up their addresses during checkout. This kind of streamlines it and makes it a bit faster. Benj, what's the benefit of letting customers look up addresses?
Well, for one thing, makes it it makes it more likely that the things you're shipping out are going to make it to the right place. Um,
Yep.
and then the other key benefit is that it speeds up the checkout process. I know I personally just moved within the last few months, and at the time of moving, I found myself putting in a lot more online orders than I typically would at other times, buying things that we might need, and going through checkout quickly. I Before I had my address memorized, I could just remember the first part of it, and places that had this address validation feature then filled in the rest of the address and the zip code for me, so I didn't have to have it memorized. That's something that might have prevented me from completing the checkout process if it hadn't been there. But then also, for you as a store owner, you can have increased confidence that things are going to the right place.
Yep. Returns are a huge hassle, right? They require time, they require some efforts. It's going to cost money, especially if it just went to the wrong place and your customer is still thinking that their package is coming to them, right? You're going to have to figure out where it actually needs to go. You're going to have to reach out to that customer, figure out where the address went wrong, and get it back out to them, which, like I said, costs time and money. So being able to shortcut that as a store owner and just have the correct address the first time around is key. All right. And then I think this might be the last in our series of different shipping things, but we're going to look at Local Pickup Plus. Local Pickup Plus allows customers to pay online and pick up in store. Goes by a few different names. You might know it as Click and Collect, or what is it, Benj? Bopis. Buy online, pick up in store.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, so this just allows customers to make their purchase at your store online and then pick up the package at a location. Given the way that shopping has changed because of the pandemic, why is offering a local pickup option necessary?
Well, in some places last year, it became absolutely necessary if you wanted to keep your business open. You weren't allowed to have customers coming into your store, and so you had to offer some kind of pickup service. But even beyond, legal limits, there are all sorts of customer preferences in terms of, in a pandemic year, in terms of what risks they're comfortable taking. And so there might be customers who would choose to shop at a different store because they offer local pickup or click and collect. So with those two things in mind, the numbers here are kind of speak for themselves. I mean, $72.46 billion last year, doubling over 2019. It is a huge growth area, and when it grows that fast, that much, it's not gonna just go away anytime soon. This is an enduring customer habit that has been formed, and so it makes sense for businesses to offer local pickup.
Yeah, 100%. I have definitely used this to my advantage a number of times. And just the other day, I was recommending this to a store who was battling some shipping costs, that some of the things that they were selling were a bit cost prohibitive for shipping, right? The shipping may end up being more than the product itself. And so having, if a fair amount of your orders are in your local area, then offering a local pickup option might help you, circumvent having to pay or charge for some of those shipping costs, making it prohibitive. So then you can just have folks come and pick the item up in store and bypass the shipping section
Yeah,
entirely.
absolutely. And depending on what you're selling, customers might even prefer that. They might prefer to be able to come and get it. Maybe they can get it faster, or maybe it's like fragile items and they'd rather get it themselves rather than have it be shipped to them. And
Yeah,
also,
fragile items or cold items or like fresh vegetable type stuff. All of those lend
I
themselves really well to like a local pickup option versus trying to figure out shipping for some of that.
I feel like this is a really good one too, if you have like an agency where you're designing sites for clients. It's good to be able to have local pickup in your portfolio as something that you know how to set up, because it's something a lot of businesses are looking for, and that's something that might be able to set you apart from other designers and developers who don't necessarily have that experience.
Yep, 100%. All right, we will continue on with WooCommerce additional variation images. This extension allows you to swap in multiple different images of a product. So when you're setting up a product in WooCommerce, you can create different variations of that product, say different color t-shirts, that kind of thing. But it only allows you to set one image by default for those variations. So this extension allows you to add multiple images for each variation, to so that you can give customers a better picture. Um, Bench, how does this help replicate kind of the in-store experience online?
Yeah, so we've touched on that a little bit. One of the challenges of moving your physical retail business online is that customers can't hold your products in their hands when they're buying it. And so,
Yeah.
as you can see here, 22% of returns occur because the product looks different than it did online. That's a real problem. We talked a moment ago about what a hassle returns are. So being able to offer more of what the customer gets in the traditional brick and mortar store experience is helpful in smoothing over some of these bumps. And so being able to show a customer this is what the product looks like is a big step in the process of increasing that customer confidence and happiness.
Yep, definitely. And as you might be able to tell by my large framed photography behind me, photography is a big deal to me. And I think that, many large, high resolution photos so customers can see what they're getting is extremely important. So I'm also going to throw a shameless plug in there that we just did a podcast episode about product photography on our podcast Ecommerce Unscripted, where myself and our colleague Tabitha talk about product photography. So if you want to know more about that, feel free to check that out as well.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
I'm gonna just second that. Definitely go check out that episode with Marcus and Tabitha. Customers can tell when photography is just slapped together or not really focused on. So go listen to that episode and get some really good tips there.
yeah, awesome. All right, we'll move on to WooCommerce Product Reviews Pro, which allows you to add professional level reviews like you see at some of the world's biggest e-commerce stores online. It allows you to add photos and videos and do some sorting and filtering as well. And social proof is key in today's online market, right? You don't have the same word of mouth necessarily that you do folks wandering in and out of your store, and you can't spend the time to talk to every person that comes into the store and tell them a bit more about yourself and your products, and mingle with other customers in the store. So this is the way to be able to do that. Benj, how does Product Reviews Pro help online shoppers?
Well, I don't know about you, but when I'm shopping online, one of the first things I do is go and look for reviews. And I want to see how other people who have purchased this product feel about it. And it I keep touching on customer happiness, customer satisfaction. If you see a whole bunch of other satisfied customers, you're more likely to want to buy it yourself. 70% of customers look at it before purchasing. 60% are more likely to purchase the item if the site has reviews versus if the site doesn't have reviews. So Product Reviews Pro in particular really supercharges the reviews that you're able to put on your WooCommerce site. It lets you have way more power behind the review offering. One of the things I really like about it is that you can insert some like prompts. So you can prompt your customers when they're putting in a review to say whether or not something's true to size or something like that, so that you can increase the quality of the reviews, which will have a real impact on sales going forward.
Yeah, and then to piggyback on that, right, they can then sort and filter by those sorts of things, so they can decide, I want to see reviews with photos or reviews that that tell whether whether that was filled in or not, the true to size value. So you can kind of narrow down exactly what it is that you're looking for within the reviews as well. And then I'll also point out here at the bottom, we noted that it integrates with a number of other extensions as well. Social login is one that we don't really get into in this presentation, but it's one that allows folks to log in with their social media accounts, and that just makes it even faster for customers to be able to come back and leave reviews and kind of build that social proof for your products. All right, next one is WooCommerce Bulk Stock Management. Bulk stock management, it allows you to adjust your stock levels kind of in bulk all at once in one place, rather than going to each product and adding the stock level there. Benj, why is stock accuracy so important?
This is again touching on just the differences between in-person shopping and online shopping. If you're in a store, you look at the shelf and you can see whether something is there or not, or you can ask an employee to go check the back or whatever. But you can know beyond the shadow of a doubt whether it's there. And to have inaccurate stock on your e-commerce site just totally destroys that customer experience and is really frustrating for a customer. And also, this second point here is, I think, a big one, that having credible stock numbers doesn't just increase customer happiness, it can increase sales. If someone sees, oh, there's only 2 left, or they may be more likely to actually buy the product. Whereas if you didn't have that stock reporting there, then you might not get that sale. And bulk stock management just makes it way easier to manage your stock between your e-commerce side and your brick and mortar side, and just keeping it all together and accurate.
Yeah, and I think that customers can tell when you're like faking that stock number, but I've definitely had times where I know that the stock on the site is credible and it says like there are 2 left, and it does create that sense of urgency that like, well, I could sleep on it and then they could be gone, or I could just go ahead and make that purchase now while they still have a couple left. So that definitely, it has worked, at least anecdotally for me. All right, moving on to cart add-ons. Cart add-ons allows you to display related products in your store, things that are related to what's already in the cart, as an upsell at checkout. Ben, here's an easy one. How would showing related products that can also be purchased be useful for the store and not just the customer?
Well, I mean, it can increase your sales. It can spur customers to buy by showing them, if these 2 products go well together and they've got one in their cart and they may want to add on another, or if you've got a big ticket item in the cart and you want to show, maybe add on just this small add-on item to this. It can drastically increase your sales. As we see here, it contributes about 30% of all e-commerce sales, which is a much higher number than I would have expected it to be when I was first looking into this. So yeah, increased sales is kind of the big thing there.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is also one that that's gotten me at checkout, right? You make a purchase for like an electronic or something, and they're like, oh, customer, you get the customers frequently buy these things together, and like, oh, maybe I do need a cable that's going to plug that thing into my TV or whatever. I'd rather know it. To be honest, I'd rather know it now. If there's something
Exactly.
else that I need to make this do exactly what I need, what I want it to do, I'd rather know it now than get that thing in the mail and then later be like, oh, I also needed this cable or that thing to make it work. So it's convenient for customers, I think, but also a great way, like you said, for stores to boost sales at checkout for the things that may be required or just may go well together with the product that's already in the cart.
Plus, I mean, the sales of add-on items like this are sales that you don't have to spend separate advertising money on. It's sales you don't have to get the customer to come back to your site. They're already there. They're already buying something from you. So it not only is it increased sales, but it's very low friction sales on your end as a store owner.
Yeah, great point. All right, and sort of along those same lines, we're going to talk about Automate Woo, which is an email marketing automation, among other things. It does quite a bit, but it allows you to send automated emails to customers, including abandoned cart emails, review requests, and a number of others. Benj, what are some of the benefits to setting up automated emails?
Yeah, I mean, Automate Woo is just one of those great things to have in the toolbox. But automated emails, like I just mentioned a minute ago, add-ons are sales where you don't have to get a customer to come back. Automated emails can get those customers to come back for you when they've already left your site. If maybe they've logged into your site, added items to your cart, and then they've just left it there, you can email them and say, hey, come back to the cart. And they're way more likely to do that than if you just left them to remember on their own. And so getting those customers back on your site, maybe another sale for you. Maybe it's just another time of them visiting the site and building trust in you and your business. It's a win no matter what if you can get them to come back.
Yeah, this one, I think I heard it referred to by someone on our team as the Swiss Army knife of automation for your site, and I think that's absolutely right. It does so much more than just sending some automated emails, but that's one of the things that it's best at. I'm going to throw just a couple of numbers out there from one of our internal services. We have some data around cart abandonment. We have about 12 to 15% win back rate on abandonment emails that go out for customers that have just come to your site. They've left something in the cart for one reason or another. They've abandoned the cart, and that's money left on the table. So sending those cart abandonment emails helps win back even a small percentage, right? 12 to 15 is not bad if you can get some of those sales back. And then we also have stats about an average win back of over $4 for each email sent out. That's not emails clicked on or visits back to the site. That's just literally for each email sent out generates an average of $4 back in lost sales. And then just another note that I wanted to throw out here with this is that being the workhorse that it is, it can also do things like add discount codes to those emails that get sent back out. So providing some incentives as well for customers to come back to your site and make that purchase once they've left. You already know that they want that product. They added it to a cart. They thought about it. They may not have just had the right incentive to make that purchase at that time, and providing an automatically generated discount code for them to be able to do that might be just the thing that puts them over the hump for wanting to make that purchase. All right, moving on to WooCommerce Google Analytics Pro. This extension adds some advanced e-commerce features to Google Analytics, including average order value, conversion rate, sales by product, and more. Essentially allows you to supercharge Google Analytics to include e-commerce information, all the things that matter to you when you're trying to get some stats on your store. How might this extension help stores increase these stats and sales? Benj?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the data, right? So if this is one of those extensions that just does a lot of work for you, it can observe your customer behavior, and if you know the way that your customers are going to behave and the kind of purchases they make after spending certain amounts of time on your site and things like that, then you can make better decisions. And I feel like lots and lots of stores are already using Google Analytics just for their website. And so adding in the e-commerce analytics to that just kind of seems like a really good way to go and build it into your already existing workflow.
Yeah, I don't recall exactly what the adage is, right? But you can't fix the stats that you don't know, right? You don't know where to place your time, where to spend your your marketing sales dollars and all of that if you don't know what's working and what's not working. So this allows you to make some of those decisions, make them informed decisions based on the numbers. All right, we get down to the last couple here, and they may be more specific to certain retail stores than others, but we wanted to include them here as well as options. WooCommerce subscriptions and memberships allows you to set up subscription and membership products within your WooCommerce store that can be purchased. And these will allow for a number of different things like access and discounts and all that. Benj, why would someone want to add subscription options to their store?
Well, I mean, for one thing, it's increasing that customer choice, which is good. It can be a way to reward your loyal customers to try and keep them loyal customers. But it's also really good for you as a business owner to be able to have some more recurring revenue. Maybe might make your finances a little more predictable than going on just straight sales alone. And it opens up different opportunities as well, just in general. I know some places that I wouldn't have necessarily expected to go with a subscription model. I saw a hair salon recently that charged, I think it was they were charging about $25 for men's haircut, but if you got a subscription of $20 a month, you got unlimited haircuts. So it was actually to the customer's advantage to sign up for the subscription because they would save the money. And then it's an incentive for that same customer to come back to that same hair salon month after month after month. So increasing that customer loyalty and really making things more predictable, I guess, would be what it boils down to.
Yeah, that's great. I've seen that model definitely take off in the last couple of years or so, but it's interesting to see it applied to the various different industries like hair salons. That's great. These are definitely more workhorse plugins that you could devote an entire webinar to as well. Which, speaking of which, there's a memberships meetup next week. So if you are interested in learning a bit more about memberships and probably I think we mentioned subscriptions in there as well. Make sure to sign up for the meetup next week as well. Yeah, and speaking of kind of what you were saying with the hair salon, that segues beautifully into our final one here, which is WooCommerce bookings, which allows you to sell, schedule, and manage bookings, and that's actually great for hair salons amongst a number of other different industries as well. Benj, what kind of stores might want to consider selling appointments?
Yeah, I mean, you can see there that it's the most popular service. That beauty is like the most popular industry for that. But I've seen bookings set up on landscaping websites, on piano tuning websites, all sorts of different things can benefit from this. It's just a much better experience in general to be able to book online versus booking over the phone, or where it's having to like come in store and book something and then leave and come back later. It's a great experience. I would say pretty much any business that follows a model that could have booked appointments like this would benefit from incorporating bookings into their website.
Yeah, this is something that I kind of expect now if I'm needing to set up an appointment time to meet with, with anybody at a business, right? I want to be able to sit down. I want to be able to look at my calendar, look at the calendar of what's available, and make those comparisons kind of on my own time and not having to sort of bounce back and forth with someone on the phone. I just want to be able to go ahead and book that. Then I get, a confirmation email letting me know that that's booked. And that way I know that what I set up was the right thing. And that if I show up there, I'll have, this proof that, hey, this is what I signed up for. I'm here for this appointment and all of that. So there's the expectation, and then also the paper trail, I think, that is a benefit for me too, that just kind of keeps it all in sync and together. Absolutely. All right, and that leads us into our Q&A. So I'm going to see, it looked like there were a couple of questions here, or one from Deb Kelly. Let's see, what can you do when using WooCommerce? Client does not receive it. What can you do when using WooCommerce? Client is not receiving order emails from WooCommerce, and or it looks like customer is not receiving order email. That started since the last update. Ben, do you have any recommendations for email reliability coming from WooCommerce?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that can be very helpful is setting up SMTP, and that's something that would look a little bit different depending on your hosting environment. But there's a few plugins that you can use for this, and that tends to really increase email deliverability from what I've seen. I don't know if you have anything to add there, Marcus.
No, 100% agree. I think that really your email deliverability is going to be somewhat subject to hosting and servers and all of that. So being able to set up an SMTP connection there would definitely increase the reliability. That is what I would also recommend. That's what I've done for a number of sites, and that's what I would recommend as well. Let's see. no more in the Q&A, but I see in the chat, Ernesto is asking, how much is a budget for a client we should present for a full e-commerce website? That's probably a little bit outside the scope for us here, but Ben, do you have any recommendations for what sort of things to think about when coming up with a budget for an e-commerce website?
Yeah, so I would say to sit down and figure out, how much time you're going to expect to spend on it would be a good place to start. Figuring out which sorts of these plugins, the plugins that we've been talking about today, they all come with their own costs, and so figuring out cost of the website and the amount of time you'll spend on it, and then presenting your client with a budget that's above that, so that you you actually make some money on it. So it's hard to give specific numbers. There's just such a variety of different situations.
Yeah, for sure. There are a lot of factors involved there, right? Where you're located is part of the equation. Obviously, the time that it's going to take you to set up sites and plugins involved and all of that. A couple of follow-up questions here. I see, what is the minimum you think? Just an idea to start, 5K. Yeah, I mean, again, it's really going to depend on the time that you think it's going to take you, plus monthly costs. Yeah, I mean, I like the approach of having sort of an upfront build cost and then a monthly thing. That's something that the agency that I worked for before kind of started to dabble with a bit at some point, was finding a way to make it more affordable upfront and then spreading that out over time. Again, it's gonna depend quite a bit on your location, the customers, the value that you bring, the costs that are going to be incurred for hosting and plugins and all of that as well. So that's a not just a webinar, but I think like a full course somewhere to accurately budget for both websites and e-commerce websites as well. Let's see, I think we have time for one more. Oh, looks like they're a fixed charge per product listed. Yeah, Alfonso noted in the Q&A, kind of to help out the answer there a little bit, is maybe the size of site and number of products as well. It kind of parlays a little bit into one of the questions that I had gotten earlier via email. Benj, if someone has a lot of products, how can they maybe add them to their site quickly to kind of speed up the process of adding products to their WooCommerce site?
Probably the best way to go about doing that would be using the product CSV importer. WooCommerce has some features built in, and there's also a premium extension that you can get. And basically the way it works is you just set up a standard CSV spreadsheet, and there's some particular formatting rules that you need to apply to make sure that the data comes in correctly. And you can find all that in the WooCommerce documentation. And so then you set up your spreadsheet with all of your products, import them to the site, and boom, there they are.
Yeah, 100%. So, without going too deep into it, when you're trying to figure out some costs and stuff, finding ways like extensions to help shortcut some of those and make your life easier by being able to import lots of products at once are definitely ways to either help keep the cost down or to make more profit on your time for setting those things up. That looks like all the questions that we have at the moment. So we'll go ahead and wrap this up here. Benj, before we kind of close out, is there anything else that you want to share or say about any of these extensions, or just bringing retail stores online in general?
So I do just want to circle back actually all the way to the beginning with payments. I mentioned briefly Point and if you're on GoDaddy hosting, GoDaddy payments. The really great thing in our mind about this is that it's going to make it over the coming months. We're planning to really do a lot of development on this and make it so that it really is a solution where you can connect your brick and mortar site to your WooCommerce site and have point of sale and devices in your physical store and integrate that directly into WooCommerce. So if you are looking for a payment provider, definitely take a look at Point.
Yep. Awesome. That is good advice. Thank you. All right. So as you've probably noticed, the combined total of some of these extensions is over $1,300 per year, plus some costs additional for gateways and shipping. When factoring in your sales or your client sales, that may or may not be a large cost for you or not. But if it is, then we have some good news. With GoDaddy's managed WordPress e-commerce hosting, all of these extensions and more, there are over 75, I believe, free and premium extensions, with a total value of about $6,000 worth of extensions, plus a free domain, free SSL, and premium WooCommerce support. And all of these start with plans starting at $20 per month. And that is all I will say about that. Thanks again to everyone for hanging out with us today. Hopefully you learned about a few extensions that you didn't know about, or that you did and got some additional context for to help drive some sales and engagement and retention for your online stores. Thanks, Benj, for joining me and lending your advice, your expert advice on all of these extensions. Also, if you want to hear more from Benj, Benj also has a podcast episode about Local Pickup Plus, right? Or local pickup in general.
Yep.
Also part of the e-commerce. Sorry?
Local pickup in general.
Okay. Also part of the e-commerce unscripted podcast. So if you want to hear more about that and Benj, then definitely check that out. And also be sure to check out some of our past webinars. You can find them at GoDaddy events. I believe it's events.godaddy.com. And we'll be covering a number of other topics in the coming months, including the memberships meetup next week. So make sure that you sign up and check those out as well. Thank you very much.